Welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest ideas in economics, demand. It's this invisible force that's constantly shaping our world, our businesses, and yeah, even the stuff you decide to buy every single day.
I mean, think about it, that last run to the store or that thing you just clicked buy now on. Why'd you grab that brand of coffee or those specific shoes? It feels like a simple choice, right? But underneath it all, there are some pretty powerful economic forces at work.
All right, so let's start with the absolute basics. In just, regular conversation, demand usually just means you want something. But for an economist, that's only half the picture.
And here's the key. For it to be economic demand, you need two things. First, you have to want the item. And second, you have to have the cold, hard cash to actually buy it. So sure, I might want a private jet, but unless I've got millions of dollars just sitting around, I don't technically have an economic demand for one.
Now, this is a really important distinction to make early on. Demand isn't just about one price. It's the whole story. It's how many you'd buy if it was $10, $8, or $5. Quantity demanded, on the other hand, is just one chapter in that story. It's how much you'd buy at one specific price, like $8. It's a small difference in words, but a huge one in meaning.
Okay, so now that we've nailed down what demand actually is, we can get to the golden rule that runs the whole show. This is probably one of the most famous ideas in all of economics.
It's just super intuitive, right? All other things being equal, if your favorite coffee shop suddenly drops its prices by half, you're probably going to buy more coffee. If the price doubles, you might start thinking about making it at home. This simple, inverse relationship is the heart and soul of the law of demand.
So how do we actually see this in action? Well, it all starts with data. Economists put this in something called a demand schedule. You can see here, if apples cost 400 rupees, this person wants to buy 3 kilograms. But look what happens when the price drops all the way down to 100. Suddenly they're grabbing 15 kilograms.
And this is the cool part. When you take that data from the table and plot it on a graph, you get this, the famous demand curve. Every single point on this line matches a price and quantity from our schedule. And that downward slope, that's the law of demand, right there in visual form. As the price falls, the quantity people want goes up.
Okay, so it seems obvious on the surface. Cheaper stuff is better, right? But what's really going on in our brains? Why are we wired to act this way? Well, economists say it boils down to two main reasons.
First up, we've got this substitution effect. Let's say apples go on sale. Suddenly, they seem like a much better deal than the pear sitting right next to them at full price. So you substitute the cheaper thing for the more expensive one. Simple. And second, there's the income effect. When the price of apples drops, the money you were planning to spend now goes further. You kind of feel a little bit richer, right? Your real income just went up. And with that extra bit of purchasing power, you might just decide to buy another apple.
All right, so just when you think you've got this all figured out, economics loves to throw a curveball. The law of demand is, well, a pretty powerful rule, but it's not unbreakable. There are some really weird and fascinating exceptions out there.
So let's take a little trip back to the 19th century. An economist named Sir Robert Giffen noticed something bizarre. He saw that among the poorest workers, when the price of bread, their absolute staple food, actually went up, they didn't buy less of it, they bought more. It seemed to break all the rules.
And this led to the idea of Giffen goods. It's a pretty wild concept. The thinking goes like this. If you're very poor, a basic food like rice or bread is a huge part of your budget. If the price of bread goes up, you can no longer afford anything more expensive like meat. So out of sheer necessity, you have to stop buying meat and buy even more of the now more expensive bread just to get enough calories to survive.
Now, let's jump to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Here we find Veblen goods. Think designer handbags, luxury watches, supercars. For these things, the crazy high price is actually part of the attraction. A higher price tag screams prestige, exclusivity, status. It makes the item more desirable, not less. It's literally the reason luxury brands almost never have a sale. The high price is the point.
So there you have it, two types of goods that break the law of demand, but for totally opposite reasons. Giffen goods are all about necessity and survival, while Veblen goods are driven by pure prestige.
Okay, so we know that price is a massive driver of our choices, but it's definitely not the only thing going on. To really get the full picture, we need to understand the two different ways that our demand can change.
First up, when it's only the price of something that changes, we're just moving along the demand curve that already exists. See how the price drops from P to P? The quantity we want just slides down the curve from QA to QC. The basic relationship, the curve itself, hasn't changed at all. We're just in a different spot on the same path.
But what happens when something other than the price changes? Well, that's what economists call a change in demand, and this is a much bigger deal. This causes the entire curve to move. A shift to the right, from D to D prime, means that at every single price point, people now want to buy more of this thing than they did before. A shift to the left would mean they want less.
So what kind of things are powerful enough to shift the whole curve? Well, a bunch of stuff, actually. If you get a raise, your income changes, and you might demand more nice dinners. A new health study could come out and change everyone's tastes and preferences. The price of a related product, the number of people in the market, even just what we think will happen in the future. Any of these can move the entire demand curve. And for our last piece of the puzzle, let's talk about one of the most powerful demand shifters of all, other people. We like to think our choices are our own, but the truth is, we are massively influenced by what the crowd is doing.
This is the classic bandwagon effect. You've seen it a million times. It's basically FOMO, fear of missing out, in economic form. When a product suddenly gets popular and it seems like everyone has it, demand for it skyrockets. Not because the product changed, but because we all want to be part of the trend. And then, of course, you've got the complete opposite of that, the snob effect. This is all about the desire for exclusivity. For some people, the more popular an item becomes, the less they want it. They want that rare, unique thing that sets them apart from everyone else. So from the simple law of demand to its bizarre exceptions and the psychology of the crowd, our choices are this complex dance between price, our wallets, and what everyone else is doing. So the next time you go to buy something, just take a second and ask yourself, is this really me wanting this, or am I just hopping on the bandwagon? Thanks for tuning in.